Greetings from Yashoda Hospital, Secunderabad. Dr. Rajiv Goyal, Dr. Pattabhiraman, Dr. Prashant Jachet, Dr. Ravindra Mehta, Dr. Balraju, Dr. Tinku, and my colleagues. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, very much.
You're audible.
So my case is on a bilateral mainstem obstruction, the case discussion on malignant central area obstruction. So the title of this case, I have kept it as No Road Leads to Rome. She's a 54-year-old female, history of CA cervix squamous cell CA with metastasis. She received chemo and radiation therapy, currently on palliative chemo. Presentation was progressive shortness of breath to the oncologist. She had stridor at rest, and when she was lying down, her saturations were going below 50. And then they did a bronchoscopy and found there is a mainstem obstruction, and then referred to our center. She has come around 350 kilometers from my hospital. The request was for a therapeutic bronchoscopy under an ECMO support. So I have a CT image here. You can see both the airways are patent, but at the carinal level, you can see the obstruction there. So we did a rigid bronchoscopic assessment. So once we go in there, you see both the stems of the right main and left main bronchus are completely occluded with the tumor. So you see, in the down video, so there is no path how this patient is breathing. Then the anesthetist said like there is no road to go, then you have to stop the procedure because he finds it difficult. This case happened when I was doing a tracheal TB stenosis repair. This patient had a code blue call in the department, and then we had to rush her inside the OT. I used an electrosurgical snare, electrocautery device, and then I was able to open, after 3 hours, I was slowly able to open the left main bronchus. And then I deployed a 12 into 30 bonus stent in the left main bronchus. As you can see, I am deploying the stent there. And then I was able to pass beyond the obstruction. The stent got expanded well after 10-15 minutes. And then I had placed it just above the carinal level. So I did a check bronchoscopy after 3 days. And the local, you see a well deployed stent in the left main bronchus. I was able to pass my foramen scope beyond the stenosis. In the left main stem, I was able to open it. So then I referred back to the treating oncologist. She went back walking. Room air saturation was 98% on room air. And then she received 2 cycles of cytotoxic chemotherapy, comes for a surveillance bronchoscopy after 3 months. You can see I did not operate on the right main stem, but the right main stem is completely opened up after the chemotherapy sessions. And then the left main started to have stent-related complications, though the airway patency was maintained. There's a small mucosal tag related to the stent-related complication. So this is my case, and then she had lived almost for 6 months after the procedure, and then she expired. So coming to this case, what were the important points here is like, I could have done both the limbs, but it took almost 3 to 4 hours for me to open up the left main bronchus. So should I have done both the limbs at the same time? That is one question, because I had a code blue call and no emergency things, means the decision was taken on table. Current questions are like, should I exchange the straight stent to the Y stent now, or continue the oncology treatment considering the extensive spread? Thank you.
Okay, so that's an unusual situation, and Hari, the case is nice. It's very interesting. The only thing we didn't like is all roads lead to Rome. We don't like the mention of Rome. Let's keep it out there, and let's say all roads lead to Hyderabad. On a serious note, now let's start discussion of the case. I thought we could talk of 2-3 case points in every case. One is the challenges faced in the case. Secondly, what else could you have done? Hari has raised that question. And the third is some learning points. So let us start with our Malaysian guest and my good friend Jamal. What are your challenges which you perceive in this case, and how has Hari handled them?
Thanks, Ravin. Ravin, I mean, I thought Harry did an extremely good job. Actually, I mean, to me, my first impression was that the tumor was, the malignancy was really extensive. Actually, So, and the patient expired up within 6 months. Did she? Yeah. So I'm not quite sure, what else could have been done, or whether things could have been done better, considering that it was a very advanced malignancy. I thought, you did well there, So I have no further comments, Ravin. I've talked long enough, more than 30 minutes, so maybe I would like to hear from experts from India.
Yeah. So Prashant, Hari mentioned the fact that this case was transferred to him for ECMO, but he seems to have done the whole case without ECMO. And he mentioned the inordinately large amount of time it took because of the complexity. Your comments and thoughts on that?
Well, I think Hari did a brilliant a brilliant job. I think what we need to learn from this case is that whatever you do is what you decide at that point. What is appropriate. And I think one would say, okay, both those main stem bronchi are blocked. Let's remove let's debulk both of them. Let's put in a Y stent plus an additional stent down there if required to support it. All those things could have been done. Theoretically sound good. But I think if already 3 to 4 hours of anesthesia is done, one limb is opened, and I think at that point, the decision was, I think we need to respect that decision, which was taken at that point to say, okay, this is enough, because all of us need, an intervention. You can't keep on going. At some point you have to say, okay, this is as good as it gets now and today. And I think you take a practical decision there. So I think, Hari, you did a brilliant job there. You said, okay, I've opened up one main stem bronchus. I think I put in a stent there, and patient obviously you thought was being ventilated well. And I think, I personally think it was a good job. Suppose you would have done it. I mean, suppose you would have done this very easily in the next half an hour. I'm sure you would have gone in and done the second, limb as well. So I think everything really depends on how the case is evolving, and how things are evolving as you do the case.
ECMO, Prashant, the question on ECMO, since he was transferred, Hari did this whole thing on with ventilation. What about the application of ECMO?
I think again, I think I've not used ECMO so much as far as such interventions and debulking are concerned. But I think the point for I think again that's a very clinical decision. If you think you could, having both the bronchi obstructed, and you could still, your anesthetist, I think this is where the good anesthetist team comes to the rescue. You need to have a good dedicated anesthetist team who says, okay, I can ventilate this patient, and you would say, okay, and let the pulmonologist do the job. If the patient was not being ventilated adequately, or there were problems, I think you would have needed to, shift to a better way of maintaining the hemodynamics and do the procedure. So I think that's my take on it. I think Hari did very well to avoid the ECMO. And of course, this would not have been possible without excellent anesthetic support.
Pattabi, let's talk of something which is very core. There is a learning curve for everything. Hari has shown a case where he's already in the midst of doing some difficult situation. And on top of that, this comes into the picture. You have a look at it. Now you go with the retrospectoscope. She has lived so much and so forth and so on. Your learning curve, your experience, amount of time it's going to take. And in India, you have to throw in a component of how are you going to face this family, the discussions. And if you were in COVID times, you'll be doing a COVID, wondering about the COVID status. And the fact is, what are going to be your outcomes in the long term and the economics of it all? Tell us what it takes to do such a thing. Would you say that a novice person should do it? Who should be the one taking it up? And how do you factor all these decision-making points?
Okay. First up, congratulations, Hari. That was a wonderful job done. But let's look at it this way. Now, this is a patient who's had malignancy, who's had chemotherapy, who's got a radiotherapy, who's been coded now. Now, when a patient with a code with that kind of a CT, probably I've not looked at the CT, and with this kind of a thing, our initial impulse would be do not do anything. Just leave her go, because this patient has had her thing. Now, there are different situations where you have to get in. That need not necessarily be medical. There can be social reasons and so on. But upfront, if someone is a beginner, I wouldn't really want any beginner to go anywhere near this case at this particular point. Hari is a seasoned interventionalist, and he went ahead. But I don't think this is for everyone to start off. I think this is something, because ultimately, once you put the scope inside, then you'll have to do something, because you can't get out of that place. With that kind of a thing, with an anesthesia, even a small orifice that the patient has been living, once the anesthesia and the relaxants go in, the patient is going to choke, and you're not going to come back again. And this is going to be a procedure after which the patient is not going to wake up. So I think the first step is this has to be only in a tertiary and only in a very skillful area. And even that, I would really be very, 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 wary about, dropping my scope in such a situation. You look at a very, very small amount of area to work with. So that is, as far as Ravi's thing goes. Whether will you do it, I will be very hesitant to even start it with this kind when the patient is code. If the patient is having a code blue and you go in, that's going to be, the outcome is not going to be that good at that point. So that's very, very, a frightening thing. And but a good job done, I think, with all these things that we see. We as interventionalists, we love to see this. A patient was almost dying, has the 6 months of good lease of life. Second thing, if I may continue, is about whether you'll do only the stent or not. I think Prashant has clearly answered. Lesser the better, especially the patient has had a radiotherapy on. The patient who has had a radiation of very, very poor mucosa, and we can literally tear them. It almost sometimes go like paper, and you try doing something and you'll end up, having a mucosa which cannot be repaired. And we've also had cases where you put the stent and it just tears and the distal end opens and so on. So we'll have to be very wary about the fact that, we're working on a radiotherapy thing. So do less. And that's what I think he's done. Just the thing you have to do. This is a firefighting, and you fought it, and you just come out, and it's very good. And the follow bronchoscopy you showed, it's a beautiful opening of both the things. In fact, I would have even tried to remove that stent in the left side, because it at that point was quite okay, and there are stent related complications, but that can be discussed. So these are the things that come to my thing at this point. Anything, Ravi? Ravi, I think I'll need your opinion as well. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not supposed to talk. Wish made it
Okay.
Ravi, can I say something?
Okay, so I think what you made is a point which Arve talked about in his lecture, that basically there is an endoscopic outcome and there is a ultimate outcome to the patient, which is a functional outcome. And we saw the discrepancy he showed, which is widely demonstrated, illustrated in this case. However, this patient had a combined good outcome. So Rajiv, let me ask you the final question on this. That, Hari has taken this up, one case going on, second case he takes up of the highest order possible, indicative of his fiery spirit, and of course his supple and wide open coronaries like the stent he put in. My question to you, you are the master of doing Y stents flexibly, which I've heard a lot from you. How would you have handled this anyway differently? Is there anything else for us to learn if we are not capable of putting, rigid scopes and doing all these things? Will we let the patient go, or should we use?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
So I think in this kind of a situation, doing just with a flexible, trying to put a Y stent with a flexible is out of the question. So because you need to have an airway. However, I would like to comment that, under the circumstances when you have both sides blocked, almost completely blocked, like in this patient, I may have tried to, open with I normally use a cautery. Dr. Jamal, we don't use laser so much in India. So I may have used a cautery to initially open both sides and get some airway. And the only problem with a Y stent in this particular situation is that the carina is very, very broad. So you may end up, not being able to place the Y stent optimally, because the carina is so broad, it would splay the Y stent, much wider than the angle which it permits. So I would first like to, reduce the carina on both sides by doing some cautery. And then if I felt that stent is required, because sometimes when you open the carina from both sides, you may actually not really require a stent, because if you are able to cauterize it and bring it down on both sides, you may end up in a situation where you're getting good airway. You may not actually require a stent. So I think it's a question of what you decide at that particular time. It would also depend on the amount of bleeding that you encounter when you're trying to do the cautery, and trying to see how friable the tissue is. So all those factors would count. But the first thought when I looked at Hari's case was that yes, possibly think about a Y stent, but first open both sides with cautery and try to open the airway on both sides. First, once you have the airway open and you're able to put a thin scope and see how distally you can go and what is the patency of the distal lung, then decide about whether you want to go for a Y stent or a single stent, which was very successfully done in this case.
Excellent. So
Ravi, one comment. It's interesting to see. Yeah, it's interesting to see. That after 2 cytotoxic chemotherapies, the left side, the right side also opened up. So I think that's what it is. This patient probably had received chemotherapy, radiotherapy, everything was resistant, and despite that, you see after on a follow-up bronch, the right side has opened up. So I think there's no right decision, no wrong decision. I think what you do at that point you feel appropriate is absolutely fine. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you look at it retrospectively again, of course, if you had just opened the airway on both sides, maybe to about 40-50%, just with some kind of hot therapy, you may not require the stent at all, because you might find that after 2 months of chemo, the tumor has completely regressed. So it's sometimes these things are not very predictable, and it's very difficult to judge in a patient with a failure of chemo and radiation how the patient is going to behave subsequently. So it's a question of what decision you take and what are the stents that you have at your disposal. Sometimes you may not have the right size stent in your inventory at that point of time, which you want to use straight away. So it's many factors are there, and like Patabi said, you do it only when you have some kind of skill and assistance of that kind to attempt that. So under the circumstances, I think the patient did very well, and Hari did very well to take the patient through and give her 6 months more of life, which is really very commendable.
And if I can add about the ECMO part, I think ECMO and the therapeutic, especially hot coring and thing with all that heparin going on, it's going to be a huge challenge. ECMO in this situation with that kind of a 3-hour procedure with a lot of electrocautery coring and and it starts bleeding, and you do not know what to do because the patient will have a stiff dose of heparin going. I mean, it's difficult actually.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to put some closure points into this, a very, very interesting case Hari has brought out, which is the pinnacle of intervention, and that too coming at a situation in the worst possible situation. So there is a tough case, and there's a tough case which comes at the right end part of the clinical spectrum. So this one comes at the worst situation that a case can be. The interesting part is that paradoxically in the past, this used to be don't do anything about these guys, but that paper from Ost and all showed that basically the people in the worst functional status probably have the maximum benefit. It is a paradox which is portrayed very nicely in this particular case. Whether to do or not to do addressed, of course, that is the one issue which we've talked about. What is to be done? Again, talked about use of ECMO plus minus, but Patabi, to add to, there's a lot of people using regional anticoagulation because to facilitate even hot therapy. Then, of course, whether it's only debulking and leaving it alone, debulking and stenting. Obviously, when patients come crashing, then the idea of putting a more permanent strategy makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, the good response to later therapy, which clearly increases the longevity of this patient beyond any possible statistic at that point. So I think these are the take-home points and the learning points. Hari, again, we commend you, and it's an excellent case.